will be live streamed. 2, during when you don't speak, keep your microphones muted. Otherwise, at the back end, I will mute and unmute so that there is no echo or loop back. And the flow, I think, as soon as the live stream starts, I'll hand it over to Dr. Shipra, who will be the moderator and chair of the session today. Yeah? Okay. Now the countdown starts. Tikesh, are you there? Yeah.
He's there.
Okay, he's there. Tikesh, you can unmute your microphone. You have to respond to me. Otherwise, I'll not know when you have done it.
Done.
Anna. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Over to you, Dr. Shipra.
Yeah. So thanks, Dr. Shagun, for putting it all together for all of us. Namaskar to all of you. On behalf of Department of Journalism and Mass Communication of IIS deemed to be University Jaipur, I welcome you all to the national webinar on STIP 2020 on the theme STIP Ecosystem and Policy Formulation, Status and Way Forward. The consultative process of the policy was launched by Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, Shri Vijay Raghavanji, and DST Secretary, Shri Ashutosh ji, in June 2020, and the whole process has come at a very auspicious time when DST is celebrating its 50th birth anniversary this year. And the thematic focus of DST is also women in science. This is going to be the 5th science policy in India and first to be formulated with inclusive bottom-up approach with experts with clearly defined 4 tracks, exclusive tracks, ensuring that no one is left unheard. Thanks to enabling technology, that word is reoriented in COVID time, and voices are rather emerging more strongly. And before we begin, I would request our Vice Chancellor, Shri Dr. Ashok Gupta ji, to welcome Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, who is the chief guest, who is the chief speaker for the session.
Thank
Ashok,
you,
sir.
Thank you, Shipra. On behalf of IIS deemed to be University Jaipur, I welcome Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Head STIP 2020 Secretariat, who kindly consented to address our staff and students and take us through the context and policy formulation process to help us identify our respective roles in the consultative process. As we understand, STIP 2020 is going to be one of the revolutionary policies to be launched soon by the Government of India after launching NEP recently to transform the entire system and revise approaches to match with India's global aspirations and leveraging indigenous talent and resources. Science demands evidence through experimentation and offer solutions to all problems of material life. We need to appreciate it all because our scientists and trust and support they have received at this crucial time, that the Prime Minister of India has expressed his confidence on Independence Day in launching COVID vaccine and bringing our lives on track. We all envision the nation as a global leader in the domain of science, technology, and innovations. And evidently, in past years, the spending on science researches has gone up, which is a sign of definite progress. We at the IIS deemed to be University have been focusing on scientific researches, promoting and supporting the research scholars to undertake basic and applied science researches through seed money. We were the pioneers in setting up biotechnology labs in our campus and could share the lab resources with the state universities also. I also wish to highlight that our institution has also participated in STIP consultative process meant for academic institution represented by registrar, and realized that with better understanding of the policy aspects, we shall also be able to design the courses as per the demand of the industry and prepare the faculty and students to use their potential optimally and explore all opportunities that opens up once the policy is in place. I understand that policy outreach is a massive exercise and the role of communication is crucial in the whole process. I welcome you again for engaging us in this consultative process, and we hope we join hands in making India Atmanirbhar, self-reliant, every possible way, and inculcating scientific aptitude in every aspect of our lives. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Gupta sir, for this enlightening talk and setting the context for the discussion for the day. This is for the knowledge of all the participants who are joining us from the faculty and students, that it was just after 6 years of first election in independent India that first resolution for science technology was passed in 1958, which laid the foundation for the scientific enterprise and scientific temper in India. Next was Technology Policy Statement, TPS, in the year 1983 for self-reliance through focus on indigenous technology. And further next was STP in 2003 to cope up with to cope up with the progress in a globalized world, and science started looking at things from the angle of sustainability and equitable world. And it was in the year 2003 when the policy called to increase investment in science of 2% of GDP, which later in 2013, it was 2010 to 2020, which was declared to be the decade of innovation. And science researchers enjoyed steady rise in fund flow. It was in the year 1999 when the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor was set up to evolve strategies and policies facilitated by Prime Minister's STI Advisory Council. And I'm happy to recall what greatest scientists and visionaries of our time, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, had spoken, that I have had one good idea in my life. True development is development of men and women, and which is possible through policies. And the policy that STIP is looking at is to connect the policy with economy and society. And we are happy to have Dr. Akhilesh Gupta with us, who is a meteorologist and weather forecaster of high repute with degree of physics and doctorate in atmospheric science from IIT. Having worked in the domain of earth sciences, climate change, and sustainability, Dr. Akhilesh has served in UGC as secretary and has huge credentials. We from the world of mass communication can also relate to him better, as he is also managing editor of the Bulletin of Meteorological Society. We feel honored to have you, sir, and may we now begin with your address. And meanwhile, I would request all the participants to please share your ideas, because that is what the whole consultative process is all about. As we listen to Dr. Akhilesh Gupta ji on the whole process of this consultation, I would request students and the faculty members who are joining us to please share ideas and send your questions also on chat boxes and on the live stream that's going on the YouTube also. Dr. Akhilesh ji, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shifra, Professor Ashok Gupta, the faculty from the IAS, distinguished participant, also the viewers watching this program live from across the country and the world. Well, let me at the outset thank the IAS University for having invited me to interact with faculty and also deliver this talk. I would make a presentation which would in fact outline the India's STI ecosystem along with the kind of process that we are adopting as a part of the science and technology innovation policy. Shukraji, can you see my slide on the screen? Is it visible?
It's loading now. It is going to come in next 30 seconds. Yeah. It hasn't come yet. Yeah, it has come now. Continue presenting, Dr. Gupta.
Okay, thank you. The entire context of my presentation is that in fact, this is broadly in three parts. The part one I am going to present is that what is the ecosystem today we have. In fact, Professor Ashok Gupta mentioned about the progress that India has made. So I am going to put that into perspective. Then I will come to the second part, that what is this all STIP 2020 mean, and how we can participate into this process. And the third part I will bring on the what are the broad priority areas that we have outlined for the policy. So let me start with my first slide. Uh, can you see my second slide here? Yeah. Can you see this slide? Is that visible?
There is a delay. I think it is coming up. You can proceed with the assumption that there is a 30-second delay between slides.
Right. So, in fact, this slide shows that, I think Professor Akshay Gupta already mentioned that there is a commitment that government has for the national education policy that came up this year, and now the science and technology innovation policy that is likely to come by end of this year. And we can see that science is the prime mover and the driver for the country. So even the Prime Minister and the Minister of Science and Technology both are in fact highlighting the importance and relevance of science and technology for the country. I'm going to outline some of the success stories that came up in recent time. And these, when I'm talking about recent time, I'm basically addressing past 6 years or maximum a decade time. What kind of changes that had taken place? So, can you see the slide on the screen?
With a success story, yes, yes.
Yeah. So, so if you would see that some of the success stories that made the headline for the science and technology in the country. First of all, that in the government has given resources or the money for carrying out the research in a more kind of generous way, and we have seen that there has been almost 3 times increase in the number of in the total expenditure in the last 10 years. Even the per capita R&D expenditure at the PPP got double in last 10 years. We have had some very outstanding progress in the country in terms of the outcome of S&T. For example, we attained a third position in terms of number of publication in SCI journal. We were fifth in the year 2014. Now we are third. We recently surpassed countries like Germany and UK. And now we are number third after US and China. We attain, even in terms of quality of publication, the ninth position. And this has been outstanding progress, where in 2014 we were 13th position. We are now at the ninth position. I think much more is required, but so much has been done. We are now number 3 in terms of total number of PhDs in science. In fact, a total number of PhD overall, if you see all subjects put together, we produce something like 45,000. In the science also, we produce something like 25,000. And we are close to China, where China produced something like 32,000 PhD, and US produced something like 39,000 PhD in science. So I think number is increasing. And I would tell you that a lot of these contributions are coming from the university sector, and especially the private sector. Private universities are contributing a lot in these areas. Third largest higher education system of the world, India is, after US and China. We are third position in terms of startup. We now have 32,000 startup in the country. We are also third position in terms of unicorn, the startup having more than 1 billion of asset is called unicorn. So we are third position in terms of that also. We are ninth position in terms of resident patent filing. In fact, you were much lower position earlier. Now, past 5, 6 years, there has been good improvement. We interact in the Global Innovation Index. We were a few years back, we were pretty bad at 81st position in 2014. Now we have improved a lot, and now we are at 52nd position. In fact, government has brought some very innovative and very path-breaking patent law for this in the year 2016. That is called patent box regime. Because of that, there is so much improvement taking place, and I think in the time to come, we will have much better ranking in this area. One of the very remarkable progress that we have made in recent past is the participation of women in the science. In fact, as on date, there are 57,000 women in the science, as against 3 lakh plus men, I mean, total number of researchers. And in fact, 5 years back, we were half of that. It's hardly 26,000 or so. So there is so much of progress in the gender equality has taken place in the recent past. The number of R&D personnel has now, in fact, this is latest figure of 3.42 lakh, and in the past 6 years, there has been 40% increase in this number. And again, I would say that much of this has come from the university sector, and especially the private sector, private industry sector. We have jumped enormously in terms of our ranking on ease of doing business from 142nd in the year 2013 to 63rd now. So much improvement has taken place, and all these changes are driven by the technology. So you can look at this chart. We're showing that how we improve in the overall ranking in terms of number of publications. We were in 2005. We were something like 12th or 10th or 12th position. We improved slowly, and then suddenly, in the last 5, 6 years, there has been dramatic change in the number of publication, and that made us reach at the third position. In terms of even the quality of publication, also we have a considerable improvement from 14th position in 2011 to 9th position now. So there is so much of in this past 6, 7 years, there's so much of improvement has taken place. And here also we have surpassed countries like South Korea, Netherlands, and Switzerland in recent past. This is a chart showing how the expenditure has grown over the time. And as I said, in past 10 years itself, there has been 3 times increase in the total expenditure of government expenditure on the R&D. Much of the development in the science has come from the growth of Indian industries in the recent years. if you look at this chart, it shows that how dramatically the numbers have grown. Just about 1.5 decades or so, the number has gone 3 times higher. So this is a dramatic change that came in the country. We are now number third in the world in terms of our size of the higher education system. Enrollment ratio has gone nearly 2.5 times up in just about 6-7 years. So that has brought a big change. The number of students, uh, 30 years back were 34 lakh in say 1985, 85, 86, and we are now 3.5 crore. So this is like dramatic change in the whole system that has taken place in the higher education. Now, in fact, we have nearly 1,000 universities, and so many are central university and state university. But again, most importantly, that nearly 1/3 of the total number of universities are private universities, and they have a significant role to play in the entire STI ecosystem of the country. In fact, to much of our delight, we find that Rajasthan has the highest number of universities in the country, and this is it is maintaining this position for consistently for past 5 years. And interestingly, in fact, I understand the city of Jaipur uh, has the highest number of university in the country. This is since like Rajasthan has two cities where the number of universities highest. Number one is Jaipur, other one is Kota. So that shows that there is a distinction that Jaipur carries in terms of the education system in the country. Now, all said and done, so much progress has been done, but we have in the R&D system certain major strengths, but there are weaknesses too. The biggest strength that we have is that although we have low full-time equivalent researchers in the country, but we have very large volume of researchers, nearly 3.42 lakh people are there, number, which is a big volume of people working for the research. We have one of the largest young researcher pool in the country. So nearly 50% of the total number of researchers in the country uh, actually are young. So this is a greatest strength that country has. Where we can. So therefore, again, let me tell you that so much of the research publication that I have mentioned are being contributed by these young people. So it is a matter of pride and satisfaction that young researchers are actually contributing a lot. We have a low citation and less number of publication in high impact factor journal, but we have nearly 1.3 lakh publications coming out annually in the SCI journal, and that is how we are third ranked. Another very important is that that is less known to people that there are nearly 6,000 R&D institutions in the country, and more than 50% are in the private sector. So there is so much contribution coming from the private sector in the R&D because of this reason. But there are serious weaknesses in the R&D system in the country. First, very important weakness is that we have very poor inter-institutional collaboration mechanism in the country. Especially inter-university collaboration is nearly nil in the country. I have been Secretary University Grant Commission, so I know that the collaboration between university and another university is nearly missing. And I think that is very, very important. And I think I did a survey, where I realized that in fact this is not just limited to that. There is hardly any collaboration between one university and another university. There is also very little coordination between one department in a university with another department in the same university. And there is also poor coordination between one scientist in one department of a university with another scientist in the university. So I think this is the biggest weakness that in India we all have, and that is why so much energy goes as duplication of work, and lack of synergy and collaboration actually diminishes our strong research outcome. The also the at the ministry level also we have very poor coordination and collaboration, and that is why the actual the fruit of the work that ministries are doing is not able to realize because of this poor collaboration. Also, this is a very important thing, and all universities should try that there's so much that you can get out of the collaboration with R&D institution in the country. I know, for example, say the city of Jaipur has so many R&D institutions, central government institution, state government institution, private institution, and if we can bring a city level cluster together, I think a lot can be done. And this, in fact, the Ministry of Science and Technology has been trying to facilitate this kind of collaboration. There is a very urgent need to do this because the R&D institutions have a lot of infrastructure facilities, and the academic institutions like universities have a lot of manpower, human resources. Working together can leverage this kind of can in fact work a win-win situation for both R&D institution and the academic institution. Also, very inadequate linkage between science and policy and science and society. I think this is very important to mention here. Many of the researchers have no idea how their research will get benefited for the policy formulations for the country. What they do is that they publish a research paper, send their reprints to all their friends, and then that's it. But they don't realize that the work that they had done could also be used for the formulation of the policy for the nation. Also, the benefit of your research can go to the society at large. That also is normally not realized by the researcher, and therefore these are important things. And I'm talking about all these things precisely because of the reason that the science and technology innovation policy that we are going to formulate actually going to address some of these weaknesses in a very holistic. The last point I would say that although we talk about the public-private partnership, but in the reality, the public and private partnership is very, very weak in the country, especially in the area of science and technology and innovation, where a good partnership with academia and industry can really make a big change and can bring a big change in the thing. And the example is that we had the recent time the COVID, when this COVID came in the month of February, March, India was not producing any of these, kits and PPE and ventilators. But then suddenly, because of a very strong collaboration between industry and academia and researchers, India started producing these, uh, these equipments and the PPEs and those things, masks and everything, and started exporting. So that shows that the country has the strength of doing all the things. What we lack is the coordination and synergy and collaboration. And especially between public and private, this can be a game changer for the country. Now, let me dwell upon the proposed science and technology innovation policy. I think Dr. Shukra has already mentioned the contextual referencing of the STI policy in the country, but let me slightly elaborate on these policy focus. So, in the 1958 Scientific Policy Resolution, which was brought, it is a policy statement that was read, in fact, by the Prime Minister himself in the Parliament, and this policy was written by one person, that is Dr. Bhabha. He was the Atomic Energy Chairman at that time. He wrote this policy. That's called Scientific Policy Resolution in 1958. And this is a very simple policy statement, not too much of pages, just one or two page policy that's called technology policy statement came at the time when this was the first policy which was actually bottom up and inclusive in some sense. And that's how this policy in fact, has several consultation mechanism and all. And of course, as Dr. Shukra mentioned, that this is the time in the India was, in the entire world was going to celebrate the decade was 2010 to 20 as the decade of innovation. And that is why innovation was brought in a big way in this policy. What is more important is that, all these policies have actually, led to establishing several institutions. For example, 1958 policy has led to the establishment of the DRDO in 1958, the Government of Science and Technology in 1971, the Government of Space in 1972, also the Government of Environment in 1980. Similarly, technology policy statements actually led to several new, technology-related institutions like Technology Development Board, the TIFAC came in, and so on. And similarly, the other policy brought several institutional mechanisms, and they were kind of, the new change of science-related, focus came into the country. But the question that is being asked today is that, okay, we had these policies at different intervals. Why do we need a new policy now? This is a big question that we are, in fact, are in fact addressing today. So, for example, if you look at, as I mentioned, that 2013 onward, when the last policy was formulated, you have seen that India has made some very unprecedented progress in the science and technology innovation area. And therefore, this progress needs to be captured by a new policy. We cannot be static, working in the 2013 time. Need to move forward, create a new STI, what is called environment where we can move much faster than what we had done. So basically to create a leapfrogging to a pole vaulting state, we need to have a new policy foundation. Also, the kind of rapid transformation that is taking place of science, not just in terms of its volume, but its relevance, national relevance and national alignment that is taking place, also its scope and impact in terms of connecting to the society and to the masses, and the scale that is taking place. I think we need a new policy. COVID-19 has brought a new dimension to the the STI policy regime. For example, the COVID will now have will have impact on the STI resources, strategy, and priority. We need to focus on certain areas, like, for example, health research must get a prominence. Also, when Prime Minister has given a clarion call for achieving an Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think we must focus now on developing the indigenous technologies. We can't be just importing all technologies from outside. Even if we import the technology, we must have a very clear strategy for the indigenization of those technology. And similarly, the grassroots level innovation that is taking place in the country in a big way need to be leveraged, need to be promoted, and need to be brought to the national discourse and mainstream. And that is the reason, there is a new policy focus need to be. Also, that India is now coming up with new disruptive technologies. For example, the artificial intelligence, the IoT, the machine learning, and several other new things that are coming up, which India needs to adopt, use it for the various socio-economic purposes, and therefore these technologies are both providing challenges as well as the opportunity for the country, and the new policy must align with these emerging areas. The last point is that now that, as I mentioned, that the industry, innovation, society all need to get connected to the SNT for getting the maximum benefit. As I said, the COVID has proved, demonstrated that this is doable, and as a country, we must do it. This is good for the country that all of us, all the sectors, must come together for a more holistic way of moving. Now, let me mention that how what are the unique features of the proposed SCI policy. So this policy, unlike any other policy, is going to be in fact bottom up, decentralized, expert driven, evidence supported, and inclusive. And this is for the first time in the history of policy formulation on science and technology that we are reaching out to every individual, every institution, and every region of the country, and every age people of the country. Therefore, in true sense, we are going to reach out to everybody. But more importantly, that it is a combination of a bottom-up and top-down process, where the experts are also consulted, and then we are, with that consultation, we are reaching out to people to get their ideas, suggestions, comments, and also we are ready for any critical kind of suggestion that can come up from it. So the process, entire the STIP 2020 process is divided into 4 tracks of actions. The first track, we call it track 1, is the public consultation, what we call extended public and expert consultation. And this is the largest consultation mechanism that we have put in. I will come to the more detail about this track 1, that what exactly we mean and what we are doing under this and how we can participate into this process. The track 2 is the more expert-driven thematic group consultation, which we had in the month of June. This consultation actually was needed to prepare a skeleton of the policy, document, because then experts can they sat together. There were 21 different thematic groups that we set up in different areas, and experts were drawn from all over the country, from lead institutions and individual experts, and they sat together and finalized what we call the outcome of the thematic group, all these 21 thematic groups. Now, third track is the track 3, which is the ministerial and state level consultation. What we did that not just science ministries, but the 9 ministries were also roped in. We sent letters to them. We identified nodal officers in all the ministries and the state governments, and then we initiated consultation with them, also wrote to them for getting certain details and inputs. I think this has been very successful because many of the states are now coming forward for consultation with us as to what should be done to promote STI activity in there. In fact, Rajasthan was the first state to come forward for this consultation mechanism. Chief Secretary himself took the meeting, and he invited all the academic institutions in the state, and we participated as a part of this consultation. And now, in fact, several actions followed by that had taken place, and I think there's a big thing. And I think we in fact suggest that all these states should do similar action. So Rajasthan is our, in fact, a state which is a model state which has started this consultation in the first place itself. Similarly, the ministries are coming forward for the consultation. And the last track is track 4, where the FX level consultation takes place with the institutions. And these are actually the top level institution in the country, in the private sector, the secretaries to Government of India, the state chief secretaries, and all are part of this track. Now, the proposed work plan and timelines are very tight. We have very tight schedule. This is one of those policy formulation process, which is very unique in its formulation and also unique in terms of its timelines. We started the work, theoretically we started in January, but actually practically this started only in the end of May or something. So we are actually, we have worked for past about 2.5 months or so, and we propose, in fact, I would tell you that we are almost ready with the first draft of the policy, with the work that we have done so far. We are now going for a more detailed consultation with all the stakeholders, and we propose to finish this entire work by middle of October so that we go for public consultation and then go for the submission to the cabinet. Now, you will be surprised that the entire process of formulation and the groundwork, uh, beside the experts that they sit outside this process in their, as a part of their being given the expertise, the entire process has been carried out or taken up by the State 2020 Secretariat, which is, these 25 men and women who have worked day and night, and you will find that these are all young people who have worked, I would say, real sense in 24 by 7. These are young policy fellows who have had degrees in the doctoral and postdoctoral degrees from the lead universities in the world, and they all have well experience, in the area of policy formulation, and they all are having degrees in science and engineering. So they are part of this team which formulates this policy. It is entirely done in-house with the help of experts outside. The Indeed Track 1, that is extended public and expert consultation, there are 6 different activities that we are undertaking. The first activity is called Public Dialogue Series with the thought leaders. We are going to launch this shortly. Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Harshvardhan, is going to launch, and we are going to have this first dialogue with him only. So this is called In Conversation With. So I think shortly we are going to have, this is going to be announced, and we'll request all of you to join. Then followed by several top leaders in the country, industry leaders, science leaders, political leaders, who will talk about the science and its vision. Then second is the thematic panel discussion. We had just completed this part, which is called Across the Table. So 16 such across the table discussions have been completed in different areas. People participated. In fact, I know many people from your university participated as participant to this kind of across the table, and that they got benefited by this. Targeted survey where the certain questionnaires have been devised, and these questions are put on the website of the Science Policy Forum. People can participate in this targeted survey. Any student, any faculty, anybody who is connected to science or not connected to science can participate. There's no age bar, there's no professional limitation. They are a questionnaire, simple questionnaire, and these have now been put in different languages also. So even local languages are available. Apart from Hindi, the other regional languages, these surveys are available. One can participate and give ideas, suggestion, opinion on what kind of science and technology policy you want for the country. Also, we have the policy fellows and also the other active researchers are participating in the print media articles, and also they are writing and participating in the media program where they come up with the ideas as to how you can participate in the policy formulation process, and how common men can participate, and what are the different elements of the policy that need to be, they are actually writing as a part of these articles. Community podcasts we have started recently, where the people can participate, through community radio system. I know your university has one community radio. We had launched this very shortly, so you can, if you like, can join this we will be very happy to include you as part of this network. So all over the country, DST is supporting a large number of community radios in the country, and so this is a two-way communication that a recorded version of the message will go, and then the people can participate, and we can get their response on that. So this is a bi-directional way of connecting. Last one is the Ideathon, which actually one can participate in through various ideas. So you can create a poster, you can write sketch, you can even give an audio or video or article, an essay or whatever you like. You can write and create any creativity. And so, what is your idea for this STI policy? Or if you cannot give an idea about STI policy, can you give an idea that what should science and technology innovation in the country do for you? So therefore, this is a kind of very open-ended, and we have kept some prizes also. So the best entries will be given prizes. So this is a real kind of idea-based system that we will have. So we already have some consultations done already. We had consultation with the India's top industry captains and leaders that include many leaders from different industry groups. Also, we had discussion with the top thought leaders and eminent scientists in the country. This was done only 2 weeks back. Also, we had research students and early career scientists participating in the direct dialogue with us. We also had discussion with the campus ambassador and the vice chancellor of the university. I think the registrar of IIS participated in this interaction. And so across the country, we had invited all the universities to participate. And thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, sir, that you have nominated registrar to be campus ambassador, and she participated as a part of this program. We also have discussion with nodal officers of the states and union territories, representative of ministries. We also had this interaction with knowledge institutions, and also individual states, as I mentioned, like the state of Rajasthan, Punjab, Arunachal Pradesh, also some other states like Madhya Pradesh and all, they are organizing the consultation, and we are participating. We are shortly going to organize consultation with the Indian, diaspora. And this is going to be a big consultation that we are going to organize shortly. So, these are the process part. Now I come to the last leg of my presentation, that, some of the priority areas that have been addressed, that are going to be addressed in the State 2020, policy. We divided the entire, priority issues into clusters, and these clusters, within those clusters, we have identified some of the most critical and important priority areas for the country. So, for example, in the financing, we said that the India still, we are contributing to 0.7% of the GDP to the gross enrollment, gross expenditure. So we need to upscale, because all the developed countries in the world are actually spending more than 1% of the GDP, and like some of them 2% of the GDP. So how do we do it? So the key issues that connect to this issue is like inadequate private sector participation into the R&D. also the incentivization to the private sector. Also, we need to have some joint STI funding model with public and private, also with the foreign MNCs. And also, we need to have better STI financial mechanism and management. Similarly, in the capacity building, there are challenges of education where we have low R&D investment in the higher education. Although, so most of the higher education focus is on teaching and less on the R&D. So how do we, have more focus on the R&D? Also, the issue related to the full-time equivalent researcher. India has one of the lowest FTE in the world, that is 255 researcher per million of population. We need to go up at least 4 times. How do we do it? Is a big issue that need to be addressed. Also, we need to create skill diaspora. See how we can the India can leverage so much a rich diaspora that it exists outside India. How do we leverage that? Make them interested in the Indian institution and contribute to that. The R&D in the country. Also, the infrastructure and part, how do we have strengthening of institution and infrastructure? I think the big challenge that India faces is that institutions have good manpower, very competent manpower, but we need a strong infrastructure, R&D infrastructure connected with the commercialization, that is technology development to innovation to translation to market. That entire thing, the chain need to be built at the university level, at the educational institution level. It's a very big challenge, and what that needs to be done. Also, we have in the technology sector a low technological intensity. I think we need to upscale our technological intensity. And again, here we need to mention that the technology in indigenization is very important. So technology which are available outside India, if they are brought to India, how do we indigenize that technology and make it relevant, feasible, viable, and affordable in India? Is that the thing that we see? Also, this entire chain, the TRL, most of the researchers, most of the universities, they work at the low TRL level. How do we create universities which take TRL level higher? So, if we can take the universities to go to a TRL level 5 or 6 or even more than that, that should be the focus. How do we, what kind of mechanism required, what kind of incentivization, what kind of policy change will be required for this? One of the very important thing that we are addressing, and this is the first time that a national policy is bringing a focus on equity and inclusion. There is an inequitable participation in the science, both in respect of gender, social, regional, and economic diversity, including the marginalized group, for example, northeastern region or tribal regions or hilly regions or coastal regions, islands regions. So those are the issues that we need to address in a big way. And we are going to bring out a very, very powerful recommendation and intervention here. How do we retain women workforce in STI ecosystem? We are going to bring out a very path-breaking recommendation in the policy. I'm not going to reveal what exactly what we need, but I'm just saying that something very path-breaking is going to come as a part of this policy formulation. Also, inclusion of traditional and tribal knowledge system and how do we integrate that into the and mainstream into the whole STI ecosystem is important. Industry participation is very important, as I mentioned, that we have a serious issue on the participation of industry in the R&D. How do we bring them together, work not just in tandem, but co-work, co-develop things together with the academia and research is the important thing, and all the regulatory hurdles that the industry is facing, we must be able to address them in a holistic way. Uh, in the governance side, there are serious issues taking place. For example, the funding system, research funding system, has certain issues which need to be addressed. Also, the linkages that we have with the industry, academia, government, society, so interconnectedness issues are there in the STI governance issue. Also, the how do we create a more sound system of governance and overall STI ecosystem? That's very much. Another very important area is the data and regulatory framework. Now, this is all the researchers are in fact facing this problem. The data standardization is regulatory framework, data collection, reporting, storage, privacy, all are interconnected issues. How do we connect them together and address them again holistically? So we are in fact, trying to address whether can there be a national data portal on STI, centrally managed, but is satellite portals available in various domains. How do we do it? How we can address the IKR issue in a more direct way, in a in terms of the patenting that takes place or the technologies. How do we do it? Can we bring, so in this case, in fact, we are addressing this in a very different way, that, as I mentioned, that in 2016, Government of India brought a new patent law for the technology patenting that is called the patent box regime. But this box needs further improvement, further amendment, so that need to be addressed on that. Science communication is a very big area, and this is like one area which is being ignored. But this is like, this is without science communication, you cannot promote science in the country and also bring, as I said, that promote the scientific temper in the country. Most of the scientists who are, in fact, well recognized, well acclaimed, have poor communication skill. They are not able to communicate science to the public. And in science, when it is communicated in difficult and jargons, people don't have appreciation for science. And that is one reason why students are not coming forward to science as their subject or their career. We need a different policy on science communication. So we are in fact coming up with a policy on science communication where every institution must have a science communication wing to promote science communication in a big way. So this is another direction that we are proposing in the policy. Also, in the area of research, while we promote the basic research and strengthening the quality, and also working on doing ease of doing research, we also had to focus on the translation research. As I said, the basic research provide the base of the research, whereas translation research actually provides the relevance of research in the in terms of its application. Entrepreneurship and innovation is the mantras for today's age. As I said, this policy is going to focus on innovation and entrepreneurship in a big way. Because if we have to connect the technology to market, innovation is the only tools that has to be that gets enabled through. So we need to have a comprehensive framework for the innovation. Also, the lack of continuum, as I said, from one end to end, another end, we need to have integration of all components of the innovation. For example, the innovation in India start much later in the time. Once you first have you complete your BTech, then you go to an industry or you go to academic institution as faculty, and then you start developing technology, and then you understand the innovation, the value of innovation. Can we have the innovation starting right at the level of school? So this many countries like European countries, US and all, they start innovation education right at the school level. Can we have similar thing in India? So this will make the students fully aware of the importance of innovation, and then when they work with the technology, they have the innovation in their mind. Uh, the last in this panel on the thing is done access to knowledge and data. This has been a long-standing demand of people that we have no policy for the access to data that is available for the produce both metadata as well as the primary data. I think we are working, we are trying to address this. Also, the very overarching sharing policy, not just access but sharing policy, also is very important in this area. International engagements are very relevant, and in the COVID era, there is a change in the entire focus of the international cooperation. We need to have a different focus and different strategy. uh, the science has been considered as the major tool for diplomacy with the countries. We have had, in fact, something like 80 plus countries with whom we had the bilateral science and technology agreements. Now we need more such agreements with more number of countries in more areas of interest, and therefore these become a very powerful tool to build the diplomacy with other countries. And this is the high time that we build that diplomacy. Therefore, we need to have a different focus on the international engagement. Uh, Channelizing STI for different sectors, which we have, like as I mentioned, the health is very important area where we need a very different focus, not in just in terms of research, but also the translation research and also the research going to the market. Similarly, agriculture, climate change, water, and many other sectors are important and they need a focus. STI policy governance, this is the first time that a implementation strategy for policy governance is being formulated, where how do we, once we have a policy, how do we take this policy for a logical conclusion? How do we implement that? So as in fact Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned for the national education policy, that a policy without having a clear implementation strategy is of no use. So we are bringing out a clear direction and for the policy, STI policy governance and the implementation of the policy in short, medium, and long run. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Akhilesh, for this very enlightening presentation and bringing to our knowledge all the aspects that the policy makers are working on with a huge team of youth, as you introduce your team also, has been working very hard. And before I also have so many queries, after getting to know so many issues that you have brought up. But before I start, there are a couple of questions which have emerged on the chat. So let's take up one by one those questions first, and then perhaps I'll also raise the queries that I have in mind after going through the presentation. So Abhishek Sharma has raised this question that policy is highly significant introduced by the government, but why media is not given due weightage to the stories for promoting the policy? So this is the question that is coming up, and with that, I would also like to add that I am aware that DST has recently launched its OTT platform, India Science, and there is a whole department which is with whose the larger objective is to disseminate the stories or the progress in science, which is Vigyan Prasar. So how do you think that, and science communication policy, as you rightly mentioned, is also under consideration in this whole process? So how this media, because media is very crucial component in disseminating the ideas that, because the implementation part is very crucial. So how do you think that media is engaged in the whole process at this policy consultation level?
Yeah.
So your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
Somebody unmute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Thank
can
you.
hear.
So it is, I think, please recall what I said as part of my presentation. We have 3.42 lakh researchers in the country, and annually 1.3 lakh research papers come out from the country. Now, a science communication wing in the DST as the institution cannot handle the kind of volume which is being produced in the country. Uh, we had to have every institution in the country must have a designation mass communication unit which should take the essence of what has been published by a scientist and take it to the scientist, take it to the public. Public, in fact, very eager to have all these output. The problem is that we are not able to provide that to the public. So therefore, there is urgent need for taking the science to the masses, and for that, mass communication or the science communication wing has to be there everywhere. That is one thing I want to say. Second thing is that now there are newer areas of science which are hitherto not known to people. I'll give you example. Say, if you talk about the artificial intelligence today, how many people will understand what do we mean by artificial intelligence? What do you mean by the Internet of Things? What do we mean by machine learning or robotic? Do we have some mechanism to explain to common man what do we want? What do we mean by these things? And therefore, science communication is very, very relevant. In this connection, I want to also mention that DST is bringing out another very important policy that is called the scientific social responsibility. Very similar to this the SSR that we talk, the other one we are talking, but this is
Yes.
a scientific social responsibility, is the responsibility of every scientist in the country to go to society and teach society, to tell society what science mean actually. So it is become a mandate for. So what we are doing is, as a part of the funding of DST. So whenever we will give funding to any PI in the country, the PI is actually mandated to use part of his time to use the social media and other way, or personally going to school, colleges, and educate children, educate teachers, educate public. That becomes mandatory. This is going to be a new policy coming up soon.
Yes. Dr. Akhilesh, this question was actually raised by Abhisheka Sharma from the Department of Media. And our other faculty members had similar queries. So I am trying to point it out that, as you also mentioned, that the inequitable participation is also a huge concern for the government. And my question or concern is that, when we see the status of villages and the education there, most of the schools, as I see in Rajasthan, from Rajasthan perspective also, because 60% of the students are studying in government schools. But in most of the schools, the science stream is not really available, for them as option, because there are no facilities, or there are no teachers, or there are no laboratories. So unless we address at the grassroots level, because you also mentioned that the entire focus of this policy is going to be on grassroots innovation. So unless we have, the fundamental the aspects of education fulfilled, do you think that this policy that you, because it is so ambitious a policy, and which we are also very hopeful that it will steer India in a very different era, so how do you think that this kind of a collaboration or interdepartmental interaction will be possible? Because unless you address that aspect, the entire course of action will not be as per your vision. So how do you think that this aspect
So,
can be addressed?
thank you. I think, see, the National Science and Technology Innovation Policy will be a policy which will get truly connected with the national education policy. And if you look at the national education policy, there are some elements of how the school system will be regenerated and expanded, integrated, penetrated into the rural areas and the areas which are not reachable today. So basically, it is like the science and technology policy will get. It will actually use the NEP and leverage the root thing that has been addressed in the NEP. And so basically, our idea is that, for example, we already have a program of a scheme of DST called Manak, or the Inspire scheme, where class 6 to class 12 students are actually allowed to participate in the innovation festival. So there 2 lakh schools are actually identified, and their school students participate from each of these schools, and then there are 10,000 students are then selected and given awards, and then they participate in the district level, state level, and then the national level of innovation. Idea is that, as I said, we need to inculcate the idea of innovation in the minds of young people, especially at the school level. Once they understand the innovation, meaning of the actual sense of the innovation, then when they come in the science stream and come to a level where they develop the technology, they are capable of developing the technology, they will then work for the innovation. And so that end of the innovation need to be strengthened by us. And therefore, the education and the research, especially technology development and innovation, need to be integrated.
Absolutely. So this was the question from one of our colleagues also, Babita. She was also trying to raise similar question that how higher education institutions can cater to the industry needs, through researches. So you have already addressed that question. And I would also want to know, because you come from a background of earth sciences and climate change, but as I foresee that these kind of terminologies that we are using, in sciences, in scientific world, these are not translated in the parlance that common people understand, at the grassroots level. And since you have already adopted the process of bottom up approach in the whole policy framing, I think this is also very crucial that the kind of parlance that common man understands or common man has to participate in the whole process to have that bottom up approach for holistic development also. So this whole idea of sustainability, whole idea of climate change, whole idea of equitable development, how do you think that this policy is going to address? Because sustainability and back to the roots and balancing, this has become so crucial in in the current context, especially when we are facing this COVID time, and we all understand that that was not the kind of development we should be actually going on that path. So how do you think that this kind of a balancing can be achieved through the parlance which common man can relate to?
So first of all, let me do. So you are right that uh, the issue of sustainability is something which India has been the leader in the world. In fact, the report which has published by Globoscan and the National Geographic, which says that out of the survey done by 18 countries in the world, India is number one in the sustainability and lifestyle, as against the 18th position of USA. So that shows that India is doing very well in sustainability. But in order to make it more understandable to people, and especially those who are, in fact, villagers, they understand sustainability much better than we understand in the city. So, in the policy, we are addressing the climate change and sustainability issues in a big way. Also, the issues of SDGs and national program, national development plans are all getting integrated. So we are coming forward, we are coming up in a big way on the sustainability issue. But taking the sustainability issue to the public is the issue that science communication has to do that in a big way.
Absolutely. So there are so many actually queries in my mind, but I believe we have crossed the time because we started a little bit late, so we are absolutely on time. So I'll just take your permission to ask one more question on which comes up to my mind also, because you talked about synergies between the universities, between the institutions, and I'm aware that at the government level, the government is also trying to bring that um, uh, uh, that synergy within the departments also, because the biggest issue that we face is one, that interdepartmental coordination, because this is all comprehensive policy, as I could understand from your presentation. So this will involve a lot of other departments and a lot of interdepartmental coordination as well. So how this synergy will be achieved? Because implementation, because policies look very fascinating to all of us, but ultimately the crucial aspect is implementation. So how do you think that this is going to assure us, as citizens, as people from academia, as people from communication, that implementation is going to be really robust in this policy specifically? Because I learned that for example, in US, they have a sunshine clause in every policy. So sunshine clause is that whenever you frame a policy, there is an inbuilt provision that this has to be disseminated to the people. There has to be an integrated component of transparency and accountability also, because these are the major aspects that how do you maintain that transparency and accountability and dissemination so that everybody is connected and there are no gaps, whether it's part of the governance or whether it's it is the part of the common man. How do they associate with that?
So thank you. I think this is going to be the crux of the policy, and since it is still in the proposal that we have just come up with, I'm not going to tell exactly what we are going to do it, but the policy implementation, as I mentioned, I think Prime Minister has very clearly said for the NEP, and the same thing is applicable to STP, that we must, come what may, have a policy which to be implemented in letter and spirit. It cannot be just in letter, it has to be in the spirit. And so what we are doing is, there are two big strategy we are bringing out. Since you have mentioned, I am now mentioning here that as I said, we are going to have short, medium, and long term implementation process, and so we are preparing a separate document where we will going to say that such and such policy part will be implemented by this time, by this mechanism. So we are even saying what mechanism, what actions are required. That also we are going to specify. This is the first thing that I want to say. Second, very important, and this is again a unique thing for this policy, is that we are devising this policy as a dynamic policy framework, where this policy will be updated every year. So this is a unique concept where every year, so not everything in policy will change, but if there is a development. Now, for example, I will give you an example. See, the patent law is waiting for amendment for past several. This government has brought the new patent law in 2016. But now this patent law needs further improvement and amendment. So what we are going to do is that we are going to devise a mechanism, a monitoring mechanism, where every year this policy will be updated. So that is a unique thing. I don't think anybody would have thought about it. We are going to have annual update of policy every year, along with a robust mechanism for its implementation.
So, Dr. Akhilesh, I think with that, I think we have a whole lot of questions from other people also, but we will try to collate all those recommendations and ideas, and we'll try to send it across to you so that it goes into the larger pool of policy framework. And with that, you have already triggered so many thoughts, and you have apprised us about the whole policy formulation. I extend my heartful thanks to you. And with this quote of Carl Sagan, who was not only a scientist but who also popularized science in a big way, that somewhere something is waiting to be known. So we hope that we work towards it in a great spirit that you have also kindly shared with us the intent and the whole process. Hope to be a part of it, and thanks for taking out time to address the whole faculty members. And I'm also thankful to our registrar and the whole team, Dr. Shagun especially, who was behind all the coordination, and Jitesh from our team, Dr. Ruchi, Dr. Abhishika, Dr. Astha, and Babita for putting it all together smoothly. Thank you, Dr. Akhilesh, for sparing your time. Namaskar. So, Dr. Shagun, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a smooth run. Thanks, everyone. Tikesh, can we end the live streaming now? Tikesh?
So it's